Hey everybody, it is Saturday afternoon and my plans have changed. I was going to do some work down here in the fish room today and then shoot a round the world update, but I'm going to be going out for most of the afternoon and I got a sudden opportunity to get rid of a lot of the fish that were in this tank, and so I've done it and I want to shoot a quick video here showing you what I've done so far. This is the net I used. I was able to get in there and I don't even know how many I grabbed. I want to say maybe 5 or 6 sunfish and one huge chub, probably the biggest chub that was in there. You see what I mean about the cracked glass? I've mentioned before, if you use one of these domes, you see how the light sticks out just a little tiny bit further than the dome? Well, that light actually touches the glass, and while I don't know if these LEDs generate enough heat to do that, because it is a plastic facing that's plastic, so I don't know how hot that actually gets, but a standard floodlight, if you're doing this over your tank and it's touching like that, it's glass and it gets really hot. You can see how it's sitting on the bulb itself, and that intense heat at that one spot on your glass will cause it to crack like that, and you'll get these cracks. I've got so many tanks that have cracks like that from putting these lights over it. So now that the tank is properly lit again, everybody's still freaked out. I just got done doing this. It was long enough ago that the water has settled back down a little bit. There's not too much detritus blowing around, but you can see the fish are all still freaked out and gone to ground. But I greatly reduced the population, and I don't know if I got all of the sunfish out of there or not. I can definitely still see the Creek Chub with the shiner. You can see it sort of in the back, and then at the bottom it's got those orange fins. I definitely did not want to take that out. I'm glad that one is still in there. I can see some smaller shiners and some of the smaller Creek Chubs back there. We've got our big white suckerfish right there in the front, but there should be 2 more suckerfish in here. I don't think I got any of those when I took them out. That's a pretty big Creek Chub right there. The tilapia, of course, just went down this end and just stayed where he always stays and just kind of hung out while I went down at the other end and scooped everybody out. So there's another Creek Chub hiding right there. I don't know if you can see his little face sticking out. Well, now you certainly can. So you can see everybody is definitely not happy about what's been going on in the tank. But it looks like I got all of the sunfish. I did not realize I was doing that. I didn't do that as my goal. I just grabbed some of the ones that, immediately were easy to get. They come right up to the front when you open the top. They think they're getting food. And I was able to go in with the net and scoop a couple out without any trouble at all. And then as I went in for more, they kind of realized what was up, and I had to kind of chase them around a little bit, and I got the big Creek Chub out of there, and every time I saw a sunfish, I just wound up scooping. And I know at one point I scooped up 2 sunfish at the same time, and now that I'm looking, I really think I got all of the sunfish out of here, which would be great. That was kind of my goal. My idea, the way I want to set this tank up, I know I keep talking about it. I haven't given too many hints. I probably will do a video for my Patreon page where I talk a little more in depth about what I want to do, maybe bounce some ideas off people over there on Patreon. But so far, I'm kind of keeping a wrap on what I want to do in this tank. It's just an idea at this point. I haven't really even begun preparing to actually do it. Not that it'll take a lot of preparation necessarily, but I will need to make some changes to this tank, and getting some of the fish out of there is going to be a starter. So it's not to say that I won't have any sunfish in this tank in the future, but it will definitely be a selected species. It'll probably be something like a bluegill. The bluegill species does not get very big, and they're not very aggressive. They have a really small mouth, so they don't really go after minnows that are bigger than a centimeter or 2 long. And especially if I can catch myself a nice little bluegill that's the size of a quarter, or a $50 or something like that, and let it grow out in the tank, then something like that would be acceptable. I'm obviously not going to have something like a green sunfish in there, or one of the ones that gets fairly large or aggressive. I'm also limited to the species that I can easily and readily catch around here. So not saying we're not going to have sunfish in the tank, but before I really do anything with this tank, I'm going to have to pretty much strip it down and start over. Some fish are obviously going to be staying in here, so I'm going to have to work around them. But I think we are going to try to remove as much of that gravel, if not all of it, as I can. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's probably just going to go into buckets in the other room in case I ever need it again. But I want to put black substrate in here. Now, that's going to cost me a small fortune, so I'm going to have to save up for it. Again, none of this is going to be happening overnight or anything, but I do want to put that black substrate that I've got in most of my other tanks. It's eco-complete. I really like it. It's a planted substrate, and it functions not just as a planted substrate in the sense that it provides trace minerals and nutrients, at least to the stuff that's rooted in. I don't think floating plants are impacted by it the same way. But the way the substrate actually separates itself out, if you don't have fish that are diggers, then what happens is the larger piece, it's called bimodal, and it's got small granules and it's got large granules. And the large granules sort of make their way to the top, and the smaller granules settle in at the bottom, and you wind up getting this really good mixture between some dense stuff at the bottom for roots to grow into, and you got different bacteria going on down there in those in the denser substrate where there's no water flow really. But then in the top, you can see how light and loose and fluffy looking that substrate is, and it's almost a porous type material. So you've got tons and tons of surface area on the substrate itself to allow for biological filtration, and the water actually does circulate through the filter or through the gravel and everything else. So it makes for a really, really good substrate. I really like the Eco Complete, and I just like the way black substrate looks in a tank. It brings the colors out in your fish. It brings the colors out just by contrast in your woodwork, your rocks, your plants. Just everything looks better on that dark substrate background. So I think that's what we're going to wind up going with in here. I think it would look fantastic with the dark substrate. In this, first iteration, I wanted to have it more of a natural kind of look. And, nowhere around here do we have black sandy bottoms or anything. It's all basically looks like rocks and stones and gravel and mud and whatever. So this is a very naturalistic sort of look. But we're going to be changing that up. It's still going to be native-ish, but it's going to look a lot different than this when I'm all said and done. But again, don't write the sunfish off completely. We're not saying we're not going to have sunfish in here, but it looks like I got all the big ones out for now, which is fine. So I guess that's about it. From here, we're going to move on to maybe starting to work on getting some of the other fish out. It's just going to be a matter of, when I get around to it or in the mood. Again, today was sort of a spur of the moment. I had the opportunity to do it, and so I did it. And now I really do have to get going. This video is already going a lot longer than I anticipated. So make sure you're subscribed, and you won't miss anything I got coming up with this tank or any of the other ones. I really am going to get in here and do some of the maintenance work I need to on a few of these tanks, and then we'll be doing an around the world update here pretty soon. So again, if you're subscribed, you won't miss that or anything else. And then don't forget, of course, this one is my 125-gallon native tank, and it will be undergoing some changes very soon. So see you soon.